Boy, howdy. Thank goodness John McCain fake suspended his campaign last week to get this economic rescue plan sold to his Republican colleagues in Congress. Can you blame him and his campaign surrogates for crowing just a little about the big rescue plan he brokered selflessly instead of campaigning?
I put it on hold last week to fight for a rescue plan that puts you and your economic security and your family and working Americans first. Senator Obama took a very different approach to the crisis our country faced. At first, he didn't want to get involved, and then he was monitoring the situation. That's not leadership, that's watching from the sidelines.
This bill would not have been agreed to had it not been for John McCain.
What Senator McCain was able to do was to help bring all of the parties to the table, including the House Republicans whose votes were needed to pass this.
And just how was it that John McCain exerted his unparalleled crisis leadership skills while Barack Obama did every bad thing a person could do in such a situation?
John didn't phone this one in. He came and actually did something. You can't phone something like this in. Thank God John came back.
McCain returned to Washington Thursday and had a few meetings, including one with President Bush and Barack Obama at the White House. That's not phoning it in. Literally, he was there in person, although he is reported to have sat silently through almost all of that White House meeting. After that in-person meeting, he retired to his condo in the early evening to make phone calls, as in to phone it in from one of his houses. Friday morning, McCain went to Capitol Hill for less than 2 hours, then flew to Mississippi for the first presidential debate. Over the critical weekend, he made more phone calls from his home and his campaign headquarters. Asked why he wasn't making the trip to Capitol Hill, McCain's senior advisor Mark Salter said, quote, "Because he can effectively do what he needs to do by phone." Okay, 2 points here. First, if you're going to phone it in, literally, make sure your top surrogates don't brag that you're not phoning it in. Second, if you crow before you've really achieved anything and then it all goes horribly, horribly wrong, you're going to wind up eating crow. Lots to talk about with my pal, the Washington Post columnist Eugene Robinson. Hello, Mr. Robinson. It's great to see you.
Rachel, great to be here on your new show.
Thank you. So John McCain loves gambling. Was this I'll rescue the bailout stunt a gamble? And did he lose?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a big gamble, and, to get away from the gambling metaphor, it's like he shot himself in both feet, to tell you the truth. I mean, he ended up making a very big deal of claiming credit for something that didn't happen. He came in, he got the negotiations back on track, he got the bill passed, except he didn't get the bill passed. It didn't pass, and so that's one problem. And the other problem is that in the process, he kind of took ownership of a deeply, deeply unpopular piece of legislation that the right doesn't like and the left doesn't like. You can start to find a lot of people who really like this bailout plan. Yet now it is associated with John McCain, and that's entirely of his own doing. So, I think...
Gene, I wonder, though, if he can sort of shed the ownership of the bill. I mean, it did take a long time before he actually said he was going to support it. He has been relatively muted in his support for the bill, even though he said that he was fake calling off his campaign to return to Washington to make sure that some sort of rescue happened. If this bailout continues to be very unpopular with the American people in terms of the polling numbers, if it turns out to be something that is seen as a political negative, I wonder if McCain will be able to somehow take credit for scuttling it and thereby benefit.
Well, now that would be a neat trick if he could take credit for scuttling it at this point. What he can do is back away from the bill, very slowly but deliberately. And I think a lot of people may do that in the end because the American people look at how many progressive Democrats voted against this bill, and they were hearing from their constituents as well. So, but I don't think you can take credit for scuttling something that, this morning you were taking credit for bringing about.
I guess if you're going to be all logical on me, I can't argue with you. McCain's, stop that, Gene. McCain's top economic advisor, Douglas Holtz-Eakin, said today, quote, "This bill failed because Barack Obama and the Democrats put politics ahead of country." Do you have any sense of what the argument is there?
No, I don't know what he means. I mean, look, everybody's playing politics in Washington. I'm shocked. But to say that Obama and the Democrats somehow put politics ahead of country in a way that Republicans didn't, the fact is nobody liked this bill. The Democrats thought they corralled enough members to pass it, but they weren't going to pass it without Republicans joining in. They were going to take the entire fall for this. They thought Republicans had enough, their share of members to make up a majority, and it turned out that they didn't. So, that's all politics, but it's certainly not being played exclusively by one side. Barack Obama, meanwhile, while I'm not going to argue that he covered himself with glory in this, because neither candidate, offered a new way forward or really new ideas or, a new bailout bill that would be better than this one. But he did politically manage not to become as indelibly associated with this bill as John McCain did.
Washington Post columnist Eugene Robinson, thanks for joining us, Gene. Nice to see you.
Great to see you, Rachel.